hours into free agency, and the Broncos have started and finished free agency.
Boom.
Let's go.
We can pump the brakes a little bit. There's still more to be done.
This is free agency.
We'll
You
see.
think so?
We will
Okay.
see.
Yeah.
I'm in on more. I'm fine if they're done. Of course, we're presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. And of course, we are coming to you live. We're from Studio A, where the A stands for bang.
Bang,
No, come on.
bang, bang.
There's got to be some more A words for that.
There's a hard A in there.
Okay.
You know what? I like it because that's what the Broncos went out and did. They spent a ton of money, dropped over $30 million on 2 offensive linemen. And as our friend Chris Sims said, they got the big fuckers.
They got
just
their big
like
fuckers,
they
baby.
were
Cheers,
going
Chris.
to. Great call, Chris. And guys, these are exactly the guys I wanted. So I am feeling great about this Broncos free agency 2 hours in. And when I say over, these are their 2 big moves that the Broncos are going to make. And boy, are they big guys. Ben Powers, just a mauler on the offensive line. And Mike McGlinchey, literally a massive man who comes in and finally stops the dreadful right tackle revolving door that the Broncos have had.
You hope. You really hope, because that's a lot of money.
No, you don't hope. He is. They're giving him $50 million guaranteed.
We said the same thing about Juwan James resetting the right tackle market a few years ago. Like, you got to do it. You
Very
go get the best.
different.
Yeah.
How
we
is
had
it different?
very different conversations about Juwan James.
He was an injury machine.
And that's exactly what we said. And
He missed. McGlinchey did miss half the season last year.
he's only had 1 injury throughout his career.
True.
Juwan James was a completely different situation.
Every other year.
Injuries do happen when a guy is constantly injured. That's when you say injury prone and you get a little freaked out about him. Mike McGlinchey, 1 injury. Other than that, he has played pretty much every single game at right tackle.
Also,
for the
you said
49ers.
he stopped the revolving door, which absolutely is true because ain't no one else coming in to play that position for a while.
That's what I'm saying. So they gave Mike McGlinchey 5 years, $87.5 million. That breaks down to $17.5 million guaranteed. And while I really say that he's the guy for the future, they gave him $50 million guaranteed. So he's around for the next 3 years.
Yep. Yeah. Like I said, always in the Mike McGlinchey conversation, a little bit concerned about the transition from that Kyle Shanahan heavy zone run scheme to coming in and playing for the Broncos and doing the Sean Payton thing. With that being said, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Sean Payton himself as it relates to who he wants to play right tackle for him in his scheme.
And what I love about this, too, to play off of that, Ryan, is they got exactly who they wanted because they got the first right tackle off the board, and this was a loaded class. Maybe you have Orlando Brown that you're able to bring in and put him at left tackle, slide Garrett over to right, so he was an option. You also had Juwan Taylor, who's certainly a right tackle, and then you also had Caleb McGarry, a guy that we talked about a lot on this show. You had him as well. The Broncos snagged McGlinchey before any of those guys, and they got in a bidding war with the Bears at the end, from my understanding, and came down to $50 million guaranteed that really put them over the top there. So what gives me confidence in that is they didn't just say, we need a right tackle, let's just get one before they run out. They said, we're going to go get our guy, and they did spend more than they needed to, or more than McGlinchey's value. That happens when you're going out on free agency. So if you want to be down on this move, that's where you're down on the move. He was probably a $15 million guy. Paying him $2.5 million more if he's your guy, that doesn't bother me. But for me looking at this, and I've been a fan of McGlinchey this entire time, that's the only downside for me, is just you overpaid a little bit. That's what happens.
Meh.
Exactly.
The scariest part to me is the 49ers fans' reactions. You know, the 49ers fans saying, wow, I can't believe they paid that, or that contract's going to look brutal next year. Like that sort of stuff, because he was kind of, in a lot of ways, kind of their Bulls. You know, he didn't have as many penalties, obviously, but I think part of it is just like you're playing on an island as a right tackle, going up against one-on-ones. The fans are going to see the lows a lot more than they see the highs, but this move does really, really scare me for the Broncos. I think, like, again, it's a good move. You have to do it, but
wait, how is it a good move if it scares you?
You need a right tackle, and you can't just go half-ass it, and this is kind of the only way to do it when you don't have draft picks. And so you have to pull the trigger. I do think that was the right decision, but boy, does Pro Football Focus is number 44 tackle last year. Giving him that much money could lead to some pain in a couple years. Or there's a real chance that he lives up to it, and you do have a Pro Bowl tackle right there. And he hasn't been a Pro Bowler before, but this is one where I don't look at it as a home run signing. It's something you had to do, and they did it, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah, for me, I look at it differently, and it's similar but different. It's you had to get a tackle, and you got one of the three best. I feel like you can argue on the order of what those three are, but I don't think you would argue that he wasn't one of the three best tackles on the market. And I don't think the money is that crazy.
No.
They're paying him what they're paying Garrett Bowles.
And Garrett Bowles signed that deal 2 years ago, and they got him for the same contract. Now they're paying him $500,000 more a year than Garrett, but right now that puts him as the 12th highest paid tackle. Now that includes left and right tackles, but typically when you talk about a massive deal to someone on the open market at a prime position, a lot of times you're talking about them setting the new record for that position, or they're pushing that, and McGlinchey isn't doing that. $17.5 million, the 12th highest paid tackle. Trent Williams is the highest paid tackle at $23 million. Orlando Brown is but still, it's the tackle market. I think in the past couple of years, right tackles have closed the gap on left tackles in terms of importance. So
they're the same.
So I'm not too worried about that. I think Orlando Brown's gonna be pushing that $23 million as well. But the Broncos, they don't come close to resetting the market here. And if you're fine with Garrett Bowles' contract, then I think you have to love this contract, actually, because I do think McGlinchey is the best tackle on this team over Garrett Bowles now. And where I think he ranks, you said the 44th tackle in the NFL last year. There's a new figure out there called Sports Info Solutions, which is a new number. They said he was the 27th best tackle in the NFL last year. So that would put him kind of, the worst, one of the worst first tackles on a team, or one of the best second tackles on a team. And that's kind of where he is. That's how I view him, as an above average tackle. And they had him as the 14th best run blocking tackle and the 35th best pass blocking tackle. So he certainly is better in the run game than the pass game. And I think these two moves really point to what Sean Payton is going to want to do, because Ben Powers also very, very good run blocker. According to that same statistic, Ben Powers was the third best offensive lineman run blocking last year. So when Sean Payton comes in and says, we're going to take Russell Wilson off the high dive and we're going to run the ball a lot, he wasn't just saying that. I think this shows that they are really going to do that, and these two moves point to it.
Hank, I'm confused because you seem down on this, but you also just tweeted that the Broncos could have the best offensive line in the NFL.
It's possible. Like, if they live up to the hype, they have the potential. Like, and again, Ben Powers, I think, is a really good pickup. It's weird. He actually is one of the lowest graded run blockers on Pro Football Focus. And so I just went back through what they called his worst run blocking game. And I think the reason is he just doesn't get a lot of push all the time. He has a tendency to just kind of stay in the same place and hold his ground. Nobody really gets by him. But yeah, he isn't mobile. He doesn't get to the second level. You're not asking him to run a zone system because, again, like, he could not get up to the linebacks. He's a 335-pound guard. That would be unreasonable to expect. What you do is ask him to hold his ground on the backside, that left side, the left guard spot, so that he opens up cutback lanes coming back through there. And on top of that, he's capable of pulling. Just in watching a little bit, occasionally he doesn't always get to his spot. When he does, puts guys on their back because he's a 335 freak guard. So he is kind of a unique player. Like, typically you think like, oh, it's an offensive lineman, go play offensive line. He has very clear strengths and very clear weaknesses, with the biggest strength being pass protection.
Man, that's interesting. And I'm happy that there's starting to become more analytical numbers out there besides just PFF, because that's such a nice thing to just rely on and say he was the third best or something. But like I said, this other stat, Sports Info Solutions, and it's a newer...
That's the the company that puts it out.
Yes, yeah, and so
SIS.
yes, and so it's their numbers.
Yep.
They said he was the third best run blocker among not just guards, among qualifiable offensive linemen. So maybe he's not as bad as PFF said. Maybe he's not as good as this. But it was funny. Henry sent a little highlight reel of Ben Powers last week and said, "Boy, the guy can't move, but he's fun to watch." And half the things were him pulling and moving, and now he's not getting up to the safety level without a doubt. But if you're asking an offensive lineman to do that, you're probably setting him up for failure himself. I thought he moved just fine, but like you said, I mean, he is a big guy. If he gets his hands on you, you're pretty much done.
The difference, though, is that he's just pulling. So it's like you take your step back, your 3 steps, and so it's kind of the slower developing play. What he can't do is work off the double team, and then if the other guy's the leverage, then he extends to the next level. He's not getting to the next level fast enough to take out a linebacker, which, again,
what you're saying is he excels on powers?
Yes, exactly, on powers. So again, like in the last system, he would have really struggled. But in what we can imagine this system is, he should be just fine. And again, like didn't allow a sack last season until the playoffs.
I love using moves to give us hints as what the Broncos are trying to do. And so you can pretty much kiss the zone running stuff goodbye. And we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that works. But it didn't work for them last year. That's for damn sure. But now you're probably going to see a lot more power.
Absolutely, yeah. And not just in the run game, but also in pass protection.
Which is odd, though, because McGlinchey is coming from the pure zone
Exactly.
scheme.
Right, so maybe it's a mix.